This is, we're in week number 1, day 2, Wednesday. I think I got the date right. Database and SQL. We did some work today. We did a course review. We got students going on Code Academy. They have to use a trial version to get through that first part. We talked about Access. We did an Access lab today. Not much on SQL basics. Talked a little bit about the servers and a little bit more. Remember, learning goes well beyond just doing the work. Okay, more than just doing the work. I really like this diagram, so we started out today. There won't be a lot here to talk about, but you can almost think of this as like borders here. If we think about, you know, what you see from a web browser, okay, or from the terminal on a computer. So this is like what we're seeing here on top. So we did a browser. We actually did an example of interface, user experience, in which the students entered some information from the browser. Then we went in from down here. We went in down here on the database level, and we used a terminal, and we looked at the information stored down here using MySQL commands. And then we actually looked at the PHP, which we're going to cover specifically after spring break. We looked at the PHP that took that information from the browser, wrote the MySQL commands, and we were able to take that information and bring it back to the browser too. Okay? So from the terminal over here, I was able to write some SQL commands and communicate back and forth to the MySQL. Now, a couple other things here we want to mention. Here in this area in between, we talk about the design of a database, and I drew in these are representing like different tables. And then we build the relationships between those tables, and we said how important it is to maintain the integrity of the data. And we'll do a lot of work. Believe it or not, this is a big part of the course. A lot of students think it's learning the SQL statements. Now that's important, without a doubt. But understanding how to design is crucial in order for the database to have any value. Alright, I guess this is pretty much the same diagram. Let me highlight that again. We did the work from the browser, which wrote information to the database using PHP. And then we looked at that information from the terminal writing SQL commands. And the whole process, like if we were to look at this whole process from up here to actually getting the stuff stored inside here, it's very crucial to design that database correctly with that relationship there. We talked a little bit too about the well, the table we used was a login table. Some information in there here. We'll look more at that here in a minute. This whole idea, by the way, this whole idea, let me use another color here. Yeah, let me use red. This whole idea of being able to design all the way from top to bottom is referred to as full stack. Yeah, I made the comment of how these things stack on each other. The browser stacks onto the design, which then communicates with the MySQL, and you write code in order to do that. You can write some JavaScript up here to make your user interface easy to use. So understanding all of that would be considered a full stack developer. Last slide. So this was a site we visited, and that's where we did the login information. We had these attributes. We had an ID. The field names were different, but they had first name, last name, email, password. These records, or referred to as tuples, and there were a lot of them in there from different students entering the information. Now, if you wanted to experiment a little bit with that, you could do that. Log into Work Server 2, and you can use this to log into the database, and this is the password. These are all from the spring of 2015. Now, the students made note of this password when it's stored in the database was stored using MD5 hashing. But that happens at the server level. Since we're not using a secured site, the password from the time they type it in until it hits the server is still plain text. That's an FYI. Remember, if you're connecting in from home in the Work Server 2, you have to use the public address. We use the private address in the classroom. And that is it for today.